Okay, good evening to my colleagues on the council, members of the public who are here in person and also on the Zoom platform. We began our meeting at 6:30 for interviews of boards and commissions, and now we're going to continue with our next agenda item, which is the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll ask our Assistant Town Clerk, Elaine Vespia, to lead us in the pledge.
If you can. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Thank you, Elaine. Joining me on the dais tonight, to my right, is the Council Vice President, Michael Donegan. I'm Mark Schwager, and to my left, we have Councilors Karen Korenthal, Councilor Renu Engelhardt, and Councilor Michael Zarella. So welcome again to everyone. Our next item on the agenda is public comment. This is an opportunity for people to address the council about issues that are not on the agenda tonight. Is there anyone here in person or on the Zoom platform who would like to make public comment? Seeing none, we'll close this portion of the agenda and move on to acknowledgements. Tonight, we have two commendations and a proclamation. Our commendations will go to Benjamin Lupovitz for serving over 9 years on the planning board. Also, commendation for Mark Gertzikoff for serving 5 years on the planning board. And we are having a proclamation tonight recognizing July 2nd, 2026 as America 250 and 250 years of Postal Service Day. And we're happy to welcome the Postmaster of the East Greenwich Post Office, Christine Whalen, who will be receiving the proclamation after we pass these. So I'd ask for a motion from the council to approve the commendation for Benjamin Lupovitz, commendation for Mark Gertzikoff, commendations for them, and the proclamation for 250 years of Postal Service Day.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All is in favor? Aye. Motion carries 5-0. So I think we'll first give out our proclamation for the Postal Service Day. And I want to give a little background. The United States semi-quincentennial commemorates the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. There's only 61 post offices in the country which were in existence at the time of the Declaration was signed. And yes, East Greenwich was one of those original 61 post offices. The East Greenwich Post Office, located at 5775 Post Road, is officially named the Richard L. Savoli Post Office. It was dedicated by Congress October 2006 to honor Navy Lieutenant Commander Savoli, an East Greenwich native and distinguished U.S. Navy pilot who served in both World War II and the Korean War. Following his active military service, he returned to Rhode Island, where he was deeply involved in the local East Greenwich community. A commemorative plaque dedicated to his service is on permanent display in the lobby of the East Greenwich facility. So I'd ask my counselors to join me at the front of the dais, and we'll present the proclamation, and we have our postmaster to accept it and say a few words. Testing, testing. This is a from the town of East Greenwich, America 250 and 250 years of postal service. Whereas the year 2026 marks the 250th anniversary of the United States of America, a historic milestone commemorating the founding of our nation and the enduring principles of liberty, democracy, and opportunity. And whereas for 250 years, the United States Postal Service and its predecessor organizations have connected the American people, facilitated commerce, supported civic engagement, and served as a trusted presence in communities throughout the nation. And whereas since the earliest days of our country, postal employees have played a vital role in binding the nation together by providing the reliable communication and delivery services to our communities, regardless of size or location. And whereas the Postal Service continues to serve the residents and businesses of East Greenwich through its commitments to universal service and community engagement, and whereas the 250th anniversary of the United States provides an opportunity to reflect our shared history, celebrate the contributions of generations of Americans, and recognize institutions that have strengthened our nation and local communities. And whereas the residents of East Greenwich join communities across America in celebrating the historic anniversary and recognizing the enduring contributions of the United States Postal Service and its employees, now, therefore, we, the Town Council of East Greenwich, do hereby proclaim July 2nd, 2026 as America 250 and 250 Years of Postal Services Day in East Greenwich, and encourage all residents to participate in activities that celebrate our nation's 250th anniversary and recognize the Postal Service's longstanding commitment to serving the American people. We have our postmaster, Christine Whalen, if you'd like to say a few words.
First of all, thank you.
You want to come forward? You can face the audience. I'll give you the microphone here. Christine, here.
Thank you for the invitation to attend this meeting. I'm the postmaster of East Greenwich. I've only been there 9 months, so I actually had to do a little research on the history of the post office. But I am excited to share the news that the East Greenwich Post Office has existed more years than the nation is old. Established on July 26, 1775, it's ready to celebrate 251-year anniversary. There's only 61 other post offices in the country that can make the same claim. And so I did a little research on where we started, and prior to the 20th century, the post office bounced around several small storefronts along Main Street, with mail arriving by stagecoach and later by rail. 1935 to the 70s, the government raised this historic 1749 Dan Brown House on the corner of Main Street and Division Street to build a dedicated postal facility. But when the parking became insufficient on Main Street, the operations moved briefly to a police station. And in the early 2000s, the post office moved again to its current location, 5775 Post Road. And I just want to thank you again for the invitation.
My pleasure. Here's your commendation.
Thank you so much.
Christine, you can shake down the line. Thank you again. Now we have some commendations for members of our planning board. If Ben Lupovitz and Mark Gertzikoff want to come forward, we'll read your commendations, congratulate you, and see if you have a few words of wisdom for your tenure on the planning board. So Ben, we'll start with your commendation. The East Greenwich Town Council and our entire community wishes to recognize Ben Lupovitz for his dedicated service over 9 years on the planning board, serving 5 years as the chairman. The Town Council wishes to thank Ben Lupovitz for his time, commitment, and dedicated service to the town of East Greenwich. Known for his exceptional patience and kindness at public hearings, Ben ensured every resident felt heard and respected. He guided proceedings with grace and diplomacy, asking probing questions of technical experts, and demonstrated civic courage by plainly explaining the laws of planning board, whether people like them or not, and that he was required to follow. His contributions during landmark projects, including Division Road and Ridgeline Estates, was invaluable. So thank you again, Ben, for your time on the planning board. Job well done.
Yeah, great. Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council, Mr. Nada, Mr. Tights. I had the pleasure, I forgot that Mr. Donegan was going to be here this evening until I saw him. Not in all due respect, I mean, I knew you were on the council, but before I get into my comment, it was people like Mr. Donegan, who was serving on a planning board when I first got on, that showed me the guiding light to be able to adjust and help and get up to speed and participate and contribute so that, and here you are still serving the town in a much higher and worthy capacity. But thank you very much for your guidance early on. It's been nearly 10 years since I first joined the East Greenwich Planning Board. On July 25th, 2016, the town council voted unanimously to appoint me as a member. During that time, the board oversaw numerous projects and matters in a way that, in my view, consistently advanced the best interests of the town. I'm proud of the board's accomplishments, its members, both present and past, and for the last several years, I have been honored to serve as its chairman as we have navigated some unusual times and situations. Now is the right time for me to move on and allow other members to advance to leadership positions. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you, Mr. President, and members of the council for your support of the board and me during my time served. I'd also like to thank Ms. Carney and Mr. Tights, Ms. Donata for all their help and the town administrative staff as well, but more particularly Al Rinaldi and his great team in the planning department for all their help and support. They were truly great. Together, I feel we contributed in ways that preserved the town's spirit and character and made it better for its residents. Thank you very much. You're subject to recall, of course.
Mr. Gertzikoff, you're also seeking greener pastures, stepping off of the planning board. But again, the town of East Greenwich wishes to recognize you for serving over 5 years. You were serving at Ben Lupovitz's side for much of this time, and the same qualities that Ben had displayed. You also showed patience, due diligence, empathy with the people who were here in very stressful situations. We thank you for your time and your service. Congratulations.
Words. I appreciate it.
Only chance.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Still on the chain.
Thank you all again. To our postmaster, I know you have to leave, so thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Yeah.
This brings us to item 6 on our agenda tonight, consent calendar and communications. These are items of routine nature, which can be handled together unless one of the counselors would have an item pulled off for further discussion. The items on the consent calendar tonight are minutes from the June 8th regular meeting of the town council. 6B is acceptance of the resignation from Patricia Colgan as an alternate Republican member of the Board of Canvassers. 6C is authorization to execute a contract amendment with Woodard and Curran in the amount of $8,000 for the fiscal strategy plan engagement to perform a wastewater cost of service study. This authorization is an amendment to the current preparation of a fiscal strategy plan contract by Woodard and Curran. Under the amended agreement, Woodard and Curran would perform a full rate study for the wastewater utility. This was submitted by our DPW Director, Fred Gomes. The approval, item 6D is the approval of a 5-year municipal lease with PEAC Solutions for the acquisition of student and classroom technology equipment for the East Greenwich School District. And this was submitted by Superintendent Dr. Kenworthy and the School Department Technology Director, Chris Scheib, for the acquisition of student technology equipment, including a MacBook Air and HP Chromebook laptops and interactive wall-mounted flat panel displays. This is budgeted from the district's technology budget. The council's acting on this is because the school committee cannot engage in a lease agreement. Only the council can do that. Is there anyone who would like any of these items removed for further discussion? If not, I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent calendar in its entirety.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. My agenda. I think what I'd like to do now is to move up an agenda item under new business. I'd like to go to new business items 8E and 8F. These are fairly straightforward items, which I don't think will take very long to complete and will allow us to let our consultants finish their workday for today. So 8E is a recommendation to rescind a bid award to Aardvark Geotechnical Engineering and Testing regarding the material testing services at Frenchtown and Hannaford Elementary School and East Greenwich High School. This was submitted by Town Manager Andrew Nada. I'll ask Mr. Nada to introduce this item. We also have with us Kate Turner, who is a Senior Project Manager at Left Field, and also Chris Leffler, who will be also involved in this item. He's also with Left Field. Mr. Nada?
Great. Thanks, Dr. Swager, members of the council. Yeah, I'd like to invite our consultants to come up, and they're going to provide a little backstory as to where we are and why mid-project we're making a recommendation to pivot to a different firm on a third-party material testing. So what we provided the council with in both agenda items, the first order of business is to rescind the contract. That's what we're proposing to rescind the agreement with Aardvark, which is the firm that has been providing the service, and then be able to, in the second bid item, migrate to a different firm that would be providing the service for the remainder, Briggs Engineering and Testing for the remainder of the project. So our OPM has provided, and we received the information after the council packet had been posted. So I'm going to allow Kate to kind of work through the recommendation, what the recommendation is based on for both the action to rescind and then both the action to award. And then I'll be able to provide some backup support as well during that conversation. Kate.
Thank you. Kate Turner with Left Field. So the basis of our recommendation this evening is a challenge with performance for Aardvark Geotechnical Engineering. As the town manager mentioned, Aardvark does function as our materials testing agency and special inspections coordinator. That is a service that is very essential to our project. It is really pivotal for the success of our schedule and the quality of work. So the service they provide is really quality assurance testing for structural systems of the building. So they do soil compaction testing, they do concrete strength testing, they inspect structural steel and UV welds. So all of the inspections they do are reported back to the construction team as well as the structural engineer in the building department. This service is required by the building department as a code required service. It is going to be required for final sign off on our projects. So despite multiple interventions, we have had many challenges with receiving timely reports. There have been instances of failures that needed to be addressed and retested that were not reported until additional work had been performed and work had to be redone in order to retest those areas. We have had a lot of struggles with their scheduling department, making sure that they have the manpower to adequately staff our projects. As you know, we have 3 simultaneous projects, and the ability to staff those jobs has been very challenging and has caused delays on our part in being able to get tests performed and results received. The overall understanding of the scope of the services that they need to provide has been a challenge as well. These are conversations held directly with the structural engineer that wrote the basis of their scope of work. So all of these reasons at this point, we foresee significant risk to our project schedule and quality in continuing with this service. So our recommendation is to go with one of the additional original bidders, which I believe is the next agenda item, which is Briggs Testing and Engineering. They are another well-known entity within the state. They have glowing recommendations. We have worked with them before. Consigli has worked with them before. They are one of the leaders in the performance of this service. They were not the low bidder, which is why they were not originally recommended for selection for this service. So at this point, our recommendation would be to remove Aardvark and bring in Briggs to close out the remainder of those services.
How did the company react when you told them this?
We haven't told them because we
Haven't-
haven't had a motion
Said that-
in order to rescind their contract yet. We have had a lot of difficult conversations regarding performance, so I do not believe this will be a surprise.
I give you credit for admitting a mistake and then changing. That's a good thing.
Yeah, it's what's best for the project.
And I think,
Costs the same, cost was similar?
There is going to be additional cost to go with Briggs. They were not the low bidder. So right now we're tracking among the three projects, a ballpark of about $50,000 difference spread between the three projects. This is a unit-based award, so it really is based off of the tests that they perform. So it is likely that the costs will come in under that. But right now, that is the projection, the conservative projection that we have to date.
Mr. Donegan?
Thank you. Talk to me about the legal steps we've taken to, like performance reviews, whatever feedback we have to give contractually that's required. Have we met those steps, if any, are required? And then if we have in fact had, they didn't test the steel, we then built around it and then we had to rip it back down because we had to, if we've done that and there are costs, are we going to sue them? Is that the recommendation? Like, are we going to, every month of delay is $500,000-ish. If we lose a month because of them, I assume we're going to sue them if they did not perform. Where are we in any analysis about that? I know you haven't kicked them off yet because you haven't been authorized. Have we talked about that?
So at this point, we're not seeking to go after them for damages. It can be a further conversation if damages are incurred. Consigli has been a great partner in being able to mitigate additional cost and schedule delays at this point. So we don't have currently a financial, other than the additional cost to go with another firm, we have not experienced the financial burden of the rework.
Okay.
The retest that I was referencing is relating to soil compaction. So they do it in layers, right?
Yeah.
And they test each layer. They did not notify us that the initial layer did not meet the compaction requirements,
If-
and they allowed and tested additional layers to be placed on.
You had to dig it back out and then do it?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so at least that's better than ripping down the building you built around the steel because that
Yeah.
wasn't, okay. All right, we were very sensitive when we selected a contractor and you, right, to go that it appeared that schedule is all important because of the costs for every month that we lose. And you said that some of this threatened our schedule.
Yes.
Are we, if we make that vote tonight, are we comfortable we're going to hit our schedule with with Briggs?
We are.
Okay.
We are. And the importance of there not being a gap in coverage in the service is why those two agenda items are right
Yep.
next to each other. We do need to have a seamless process. My colleague Chris is with me today because he has put in a tremendous amount of legwork in making sure that all of the tests that have not been, or the reports have not yet been received are fully being tracked. We are tracking or
Mhm.
chasing to get as many things as we can get ahead of time and really queuing up Briggs to be able to seamlessly take over and be able to perform testing. And if there's a level of duplication in order to make sure that there is no gap in reporting,
Mhm.
we'd be willing to move in that direction as well.
And who employs them directly?
Town of East Greenwich.
Town does, right? Because I know you mentioned that I was thinking about lawsuits and you mentioned Consigli. If it's the town who employs them, why do we care about Consigli in that decision?
So Consigli's scope of work is Aardvark is testing Consigli's work.
Right?
So Consigli is a partner in this because they are the ones that have to provide us with schedule and when we need them to perform certain tests and scopes of work. They are also the ones that if things don't meet standard, they need to redo the work. So they are intimately involved in this process.
Just the confusing thing is the privity of contract. If they're not in contract with Consigli, or they are.
They are not. They are in contract
So
with
if
the town. of
Consigli
Greenwich.
doesn't perform to the deadline because our testing company doesn't provide timely information, Consigli is, that's not their responsibility.
Correct. They would,
Um,
they, correct.
Right. And so, okay, I would like just to, we don't have to go into this anymore, but assuming that if there are any delays or significant expenses caused by them, you know, at some point you'll, Andy, flag it in our little construction committee and
I actually noted this for Kate the other day in a meeting. I said, you know what, Kate, we need to be prepared to talk about potential costs and damages
right.
based on the actions or inactions of this group. Because we thought this question might come up, Mike.
Yep. Yeah. Because we'll behave, we're a commercial player in this
Yeah,
and we'll behave like it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and that's where that's what I mean when I say Consigli has been a good partner to East Greenwich
Yep.
in being able to mitigate the delays and staffing issues that we've
I see.
experienced with East Greenwich's contractor.
Yep.
So
And we didn't want to overreact, but I think this team has worked close enough together this far in the project that we
Yep.
know when we need to make a change, and we have a player or a party in the contract that is not really fitting the quality standards of the other parties that we have. And so that's the reason why we're jumping now. Our greatest concern is about future risk. If
Right.
we were to try to and we did try to salvage, there have been multiple meetings amongst
Of course.
consultants involved. We tried to get things back online, and I think we just realized it's just not going to happen with this firm. So, and again, I'm sure they do good work and maybe there's a good fit in another project, but for us, I think it's time to make the change. So that's where, we don't come before you easily or
Sure.
quickly.
No,
with such
I
decisions. Yeah.
believe all that. I was
Yeah.
just, what I don't know is if you're coming to us to prevent the forest fire or after it's already well underway.
Yeah,
And it
no.
Sounds like you're saying this will be preventative if we do that.
Absolutely.
preventative.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Just as far as the sequencing of the rescinding the contract and then awarding the new contract, this is based off of a prior bid to Briggs, is that right?
That is correct.
So just, how did you manage that to see if Briggs could take on this new contract?
So we had initial conversations with Briggs and their ownership team to make sure that they would be willing to honor the terms of the RFP because we're well past 90 days since the RFP was submitted. They are willing to honor the original terms that they submitted in the RFP. And they, from a staffing perspective, are available and ready to hit the ground running with this project.
Very good. Are there other questions from the council for our consultants?
Mark, is the request then for a motion to rescind and award? That's
There's two separate motions.
Okay.
So the first motion would be a recommendation to rescind a bid of award to Aardvark Geotechnical Engineering and Testing regarding material testing services at Frenchtown and Hannaford Elementary Schools and the East Greenwich High School. I'd like a motion. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. And then the adjoining motion 8F is a recommendation to award a contract to Briggs Engineering and Testing to complete the remaining material testing services at Frenchtown and Hannaford Elementary Schools and the East Greenwich High School for an amount not to exceed $227,535 and in accordance with the per unit pricing as provided. The award of material testing services will be funded through the bond issuance of $150 million as authorized by voters in a local referendum associated with funding the school construction project. Are there any questions related to this awarding of bids to Briggs Engineering and Testing? I just want to have Mr. Leffler have an opportunity to just say hello to the team here because we actually took a tour of the work site last Friday, and I have to say, Mr. Leffler was as excited about this project as the town council was. So I want to give you an opportunity to just introduce yourself and if you have any comments about the materials testing services.
So good evening, everyone. I'm Chris Leffler with Leftfield. I am the on-site project manager.
Chris, can you speak a little bit?
Sorry about
closer?
that.
Lift it up too.
I am the on-site project manager. I'm on all three project sites every day, all the daily reports, manage the, the communication levels, all the specifications and all the stuff that goes into the project. I make sure everything is done properly from the design team to where it actually is constructed. So I make sure I'm the eyes and ears. I guess Kate says I'm the foot general on site every day, making sure everyone's doing what they're supposed to do. Developing relationships. I am extremely excited to be working in East Greenwich. I'm a Rhode Island resident. I really enjoyed the K through 12 construction process. So for Aardvark, we've been working with Aardvark for about 6 months. It's been an interesting journey. I think they're a very capable firm. I just think this is a little bit more than they can handle for the 3 project sites at the same time. My biggest concern and one of my parts of my job is to evaluate risk, is looking at what happens from a year from now, which would be the occupancy, getting ready for occupancy. If all these reports are not properly generated, we have a harder time getting students in the building. So I'm looking at the schedule, not just this week and next week, looking from a year from now. We're really pushing to make sure we have everything, all of our, all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed, and everything's done properly so we get proper sign off.
Can you speak into the mic?
We were at the event that you had several weeks ago on Saturday, I think it
Touch a
was.
truck.
Yeah, the Touch a Truck. It was so well attended and everybody was, sorry. And everybody had a great time. There were even kids there that are not in school. So they know, so they get to see, what's going to happen, and their parents get to see, what we're putting forth. So it was great credit to all of you, frankly. Yeah, it was great.
Other questions for our consultants? If not, I'd ask for a motion to approve the recommendation to award the contract to Briggs Engineering and Testing.
So move.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This takes us back to item 7, which is our public hearing. Tonight, we're having a public hearing and second reading the ordinance to amend Chapter 197, Article 3, Section 197-31, entitled Sewer Use Rates, Charges, and Budget Adoption, and Section 197-32, entitled Sewer Bill Due Date and Payment and Interest. We want to consider changing billing from annually to quarterly, with and without the use of deduction meters. So we'll introduce tonight's conversation with our Director of Public Works, Fred Gomes. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. So as stated, we're looking to amend the current ordinance on the sewer billing as it stands. The way that we currently do it, the town bills based on last year's water usage to the residents. So we're always at least 12 to 18 months behind our current billing. So we're looking to change that to a more modern billing system, which would be a quarterly billing. So most utilities, don't use this outdated method at all. Nobody does. All utilities either bill monthly or quarterly. So some of the financial benefits of us moving to quarterly would be obviously improving the cash flow through the town into the treatment facility, and reduce risk of under-collecting revenue that is due to the town. And it provides a more timely consumption information to residents. So we'll be able to catch mistakes earlier on versus waiting 18 months, to catch something and then trying to go back and amend it. A key piece in this amendment to change to quarterly is a couple of years ago, I believe, we upgraded our Munis system, Tyler Technology System software. It doesn't allow for yearly billing. It only allows for quarterly or monthly billing. So when we try to bill last year's usage, there's just a lot of manual usage by the DPW department and also the finance department. And what we're finding is that we're missing revenue, and it also invites for mistakes because there's just a lot of manual calculations involved in this whole system. So the impact on residents, the only impact is that they'll receive quarterly billing versus yearly billing. The amount that they're paying should not change at all. It's just that they're paying the last 3 months versus the last 12 to 18 months. So they're more current. They know exactly where their water went versus, 18 months ago. I don't remember what I did. And also for the smaller budget, the smaller quarterly bills are actually, I believe, and we believe as a department, easier for the households to budget versus, trying to plan a year ahead to pay this sewer billing. And also they will add, residents will have more timely information on where their bills are. So let's say that you had a leak in your house that you weren't aware of, a leaky toilet, a leak in your irrigation system. Instead of finding out a year later, that you had a leak, at least you'll have 3 months worth of billing that, we can discuss internally to see if we can abate some of that or not.
Okay, Fred. So what are people going to do that have HOAs and that don't, because they don't pay an individual water bill, right?
No, they pay the HOA collects money from all the residents and then they pay the town. In typical cases, that's how they do it. So most cases, they will have either a single water bill into the facility, and then either depending on the condo association, they'll either have one sewer bill or multiple sewer bills if they're set up that way. But they don't pay the town directly, I don't believe. They pay, the association pays the town. And then the other piece of this is the deduct meter program that the town currently has. So we're only one of 6 communities in the whole state that offers a deduct meter program. The problem with that deduct meter program is it's old and it changed over the years, and it wasn't very well implemented as far as regulated. So we have a multitude of deduct meters out there. So we have probably like 6 different brands. We have water meters that read in cubic feet. We have water meters that read in gallons. We have water meters that run backwards. So the way that the town administers this program is we'll send out notices to residents, typically 2. We'll send out a notice saying, we need your deduct readings in 30 days, 60 days. We'll send out a second reminder. And we actually rely on residents to take a picture of their meter and send it to Public Works. We log that picture, we log the setting, and then we deduct it from last year's setting. So everything is manual. The problem is there is no way of testing these meters, or we have not tested these meters to see if A, they're calibrated. Some of them are like 15, 20 years old. A, they're calibrated. From some of the readings that we get, we believe that some of them are bypassed around because we actually have some readings that are less than the water consumption, which is impossible. So people manipulate these things. And we're at a point that it's just so time consuming because I send these notices out, and if it's not important to you, you're not going to get back to me until you get a bill without a deduction. So now the chase is on. Do I still apply your deduct, or do I say, well, you missed the deadline, that's too bad, but then, then you get the emails to council and to the town manager, and we try to help residents whenever we can. It's just gotten to the point that it's just too much for everybody involved, and it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, we spend countless weeks on trying to obtain these readings, trying to make sense of them. We pass it down to finance, they push them back to us. It just goes back and forth, and there's still mistakes. So again, not many municipalities use this program, and there's a reason for it. It just doesn't make sense. So what we're putting before you is the elimination of the deduct water meter program entirely, and just go into a rate system, a flat rate system, and then we give everybody an allowance for outdoor usage, whether you're watering your garden, you're washing your car, you're watering your lawn. That's what 95% of the municipalities do now. And we just want to start to follow suit and get up to speed with everybody else.
Fred, let's say people leave for 6 months to go to Florida.
Yeah.
So how would this be, if they were to pay without the deduct meter,
Yep.
would this be better for them or make no
So,
difference?
and So let me just give you a couple little statistics. So right now we have about 2,400 sewer usage accounts, right? Out of those, 1,753 don't have any kind of deduct meter at all. They just get their 85% credit.
Fred, explain what that is. So everybody understands fully what the 85% means.
Yeah, so we have our rate, which is $15.54 currently per 100 cubic feet. That's what we charge everybody based on Kent County water consumption, right? So we get the Kent County bill. It says 125 Main Street. This was their usage for the year. We calculate that by, divided by the 100 cubic feet times 1554. For every resident that does not have a deduct meter, we automatically take 15% off the top of that because we just assume that you're using 15% outside water. If you have a deduct meter, we charge you 100% of the Kent County water bill, or the bills that we get from them. And then we take your deduct reading off of that. So in your case, Karen, if you're a snowbird and you live in Florida for half the year, you're only still paying 85% throughout the whole year. And we're actually recommending that we reduce that to 80% for everybody. But we are looking to make that change as well.
So I didn't catch the math. How many people actually have a deduct meter?
A deduct meter? So 392.
Okay. And I assume the 15% applies whether you have 100-acre pasture or zero grass.
That's right. So if you're a resident,
Just because we have to have a rule of general application.
and you hooked up to the sewer system, that is correct.
Okay. And does that apply equally to commercial and residential?
No, it does not.
What do you
They're
do
on a
with the
different rate.
commercial?
So commercial is on 100%. If you're a commercial B, I believe we're at 110% currently. So
They don't get deduct meters?
They do not. Well, they're not supposed to. We do have a couple in town that somehow ended up with a deduct meter in their establishment, whichever way we go, those are going to go away. So yeah.
Okay.
So you're proposing to increase the reduction from 15% to 20%?
Yes,
Okay.
for all residents, for all residential accounts. Yes.
And if we pass this tonight, how quickly would this take
So-
effect? Because I mean, I think this is what the situation is with this, a couple of these condo associations are saying this.
Yeah. So
doesn't
what
get
we're
done.
recommending is that we go to quarterly billing starting January 1st.
So it would be like 6 months.
6 months, and we're going to give them a little bit of a grace period to catch up to that.
Renu, if I could add to that. So we met as a staff, we kind of worked through this. And so we understand that the policies that are written that have governed this process really have rested with existing and prior directors of DPW. They are empowered to enter into these agreements. So a lot of it comes down to the definitions and the interpretation of a definition for residential and what that means. And so we've come across a lot of information that is a bit conflicting, right? So in the commodity world, my understanding is that the standard practice is that each facility, each residence, although condos are owned individually, should have their own water meters. So, but condos associations are not set up that way. They have one meter coming in, which is generally in the industry treated as commercial. So we have a minimum of one, maybe more, condo associations that have these deduct meters. So there's a question amongst us as to whether or not, how the definitions were applied, should they have ever been granted. Karen, to your example, I was talking, Mark, incredible timing with Brian Courts here tonight from Kent County. So I turned around, reintroduced myself to Brian and had a little conversation about this, right? And so most, not as much with Kent County, but as you know, in Rhode Island, our weather patterns have changed. So we see restrictions, outdoor water use restrictions go into effect much faster than we used to. And that has not yet really affected Kent County, according to Brian, our representative on the Kent County Water Authority. But the likelihood is that it's going to come. At least one of the associations we've engaged with uses their choice and their ability, they're paying for it, an incredible amount of water in the summer months when they're here. And then many of them, not all of them, leave the area during the winter months. So we talked as a group, we evaluated the numbers, and we feel that we could also extend the 80-20 scenario, a 20% discount to those HOAs that are using outdoor water in a significant way versus the recommendation that's before you, which is a 95%. So it's to add a new category of a residential B, which there is also some conflicting information. Some of the town's policies have units, complexes that have units of 5 or more units are treated as commercial in our building inspection and permitting processes. And then other places you're gonna find that they're defined as residential. So I think we feel comfortable based on the limited number of such entities that are in the district, in the water and sewer district, that we can extend that same resident discount of 80-20 to them. Now, what that would do for one or more of these HOAs is if they have no checks and balances and they have just irrigations running 7 days a week all summer, they may need to change behavior if they want to limit that cost, because they're going to go from a significant amount of deduct off of the 100% usage because their usage is high summer, very, very low winter. So we feel confident that with normal conservation, their grounds can still be in excellent shape. They can still use a significant amount of water, but they're in the driver's seat. We're not, regarding what their bill ultimately is. So as part of this conversation, we're comfortable making that modification tonight with some additional research that we've conducted to also treat. Now, this isn't apartment complexes, right? This is full home ownership of condominiums in a condominium development, that we're comfortable with those homeowners of these condos extending that same 80-20 discount to them, which would, I think, dramatically improve the cost impact for them in this initial round. Everybody else in the town, all the residents are going to see a discount with the 80-20. You're going from 85-15 to 80-20. So we're hoping not to hear anybody complain who's getting the discount beyond that.
The 300 and something, and then of them, right? It's
Yeah.
only the ones with deduct. It's the 300 and something with deduct meters, and then only the ones listed in commercial who are
That's
condos.
right. Yeah. So the
Which is
other,
how many people?
yeah, I'm sure. I didn't hear you, Mike.
So if we say there's 300 and something
Yep. Deduct
locations
meters.
with deduct meters.
Yep.
Only some of those are multi-unit condos.
That is correct.
Which have this ambiguous treatment.
Yes.
That's correct.
How many people is that? Like how many properties is that? It can't be that many.
Can't be,
Of the condos, are you
Yeah, how
talking
many
about?
condos
Big-
windows, yeah.
of any size could we have who are treated commercially? Handful, dozen? I don't even know.
Well, you're talking full property or individual condo ownership?
No, because the condos, the association gets one bill, right? That's what we're talking
That's
about,
correct.
that circumstance.
Just a few,
It's just a few.
just a few.
Yeah.
So I mean, how many, I mean, overall, so there's obviously this one that's the Frybrook or whatever it is.
Yep.
I'm gonna assume, given the developer of that is this developer of several other properties in East Greenwich, perhaps it's the same for his other properties, is that, because he has developed several condos.
Yes, he has. They're the only ones that we've heard from on this. They have 23 units
Yeah.
in that complex, and they have 23 different deduct meters. They have one single water meter feeding the whole complex,
Uh-huh.
and they made each resident put in a deduct meter. And then they have a common area deduct meter, I guess, from what I understand.
And your billing cycle, because they were also complaining about that. So.
Yeah,
explain
they're a
that.
little bit, I guess they didn't understand.
They're off on that one, right?
I'm sorry?
They're off on that one.
Yes, they are
Yeah,
off
yeah.
on that, yeah.
So you're billing in arrears, not in advance.
Building in the rear,
That's
right.
And
by
that
the
they
way,
were
these,
saying,
these people, if they're transient and they leave.
Yeah.
They will only have paid up for what they're doing, what
That's
they're
right.
using,
Right.
not,
Right, we
On
can't
that.
bill anything that hasn't happened yet.
right. Chris, do you,
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. So basically what we're doing here is we're aligning the condo units with the state land use code, which is 23. And last year's certified tax roll that we submitted to the state, we had 509 parcels under the residential condominium land use code. Of those, I can't tell you how many actually have the deduct meter, but we do know that this one in particular, Frybrook, has 24. The other development within town that I know that will be affected by this is also the mobile home park. So they're going to fall under this as well.
Which one is that, Trish? Did you
The
say?
mobile home park,
Lewis.
Sun
On
Valley.
Route 2, yeah.
Do we have any sense of what given the flows, can you estimate? You eliminate the deduct meter and change the exemption amount. Any idea whether that at the same flow would be close?
We've run some calculations.
same
We're-
cost?
We are meeting our budgeted revenues by making this change. So
Are we
without
losing
having,
revenue or gaining revenue?
it's a slight gain.
Okay.
So it covers it.
But
Even-
all
and
that
the-
revenue goes directly back
Oh,
to the.
All the
to-
revenue stays, this is an enterprise fund.
Yep.
So it's separate from the general fund. So all the revenue stays within the enterprise fund. So the first 6 months from January, we're truing them up from January through June. And I think we had explained the last time we spoke, we can set a date for which that payment is due.
Mhm.
And we said, we'll give them another 6 months, but we could even push that out to April. And all we're really doing is accelerating the revenues. It's not excess revenues. It's just accelerating the revenues to get us on the correct, proper utility billing revenue system, billing and receiving system, which is,
When Trish says accelerate, it doesn't mean in advance of the service has already been rendered,
Right, so
right? They've already used it. It's just not, we're not going to collect it a year
in advance.
in arrears. We're going to collect it like 3
quarterly.
months.
essentially using the system for almost 24 months before paying.
Right.
Right.
Before paying for it.
Right.
The way that we're billing out and receiving now.
And this will be standardized across all these
This is a
units.
one-time thing. This is not going to happen again. And then once we get on that quarterly billing, that's it.
And
All-
then this will never, like, we won't hear from another condo thing or, another.
Well, we can't
hopefully
guarantee that, but we
yeah.
hope, we're hoping that we don't hear.
No, but I mean, I guess one of the things is, I mean, what I'm hearing is that there was a bunch of, it's sort of piecemeal across the board and you don't know necessarily, what condos, what residential, what, obviously some commercial as well. And there was no, so now we're going to try to standardize this. So make it.
Patricia, the Sun Valley development, do you know how many units that is?
No offhand.
Do they have any deduct meters in Sun Valley?
Really do.
They do.
Yeah.
Which makes absolutely no sense because they're all trailers. So they really don't have much land, but there's a considerable amount of deduct meters in there.
Because related to the deduct meters, the thing that separates Frybrook apart from others that I've heard from, I haven't heard of any other ones except for
I haven't either.
Middlebury, but Middlebury doesn't have deduct meters
No, they
because
don't.
they water their lawn with
They
the
have a
well
well.
water,
Yeah.
well water. But at Frybrook, the difference between that and Sun Valley is that 50% of Frybrook is unoccupied for 6 months of the year. So they are not using any domestic water for that period of time. So for them, I call it outside water versus domestic water.
Yeah.
Their outside water is 60% of their water use. And so, but they are forgiven for that by the use of deduct meters.
Right.
If you take away their deduct meters, they'll lose 60% of their water deduction and their water bill will go up 2.5 times.
Won't they get a deduction in the rate
Yeah.
Well-
corresponding?
$20.
Somewhat. I
Yeah,
don't know.
it's not going to go up. It will go up, but it's not going to go up.
Well, they're
2.5.
paying 100 minus the deduct. Now they're going to pay just 80 total.
Right, so their deduct
Okay.
goes from 65% to 20%.
Yeah, but if you're not using that water for the, 5 months
But
that
that's-
you're not there, then
No,
you
but that's where they've been, that's why they're at 62%.
But Mark, don't they
So-
won't they get a deduct now when it drops as a percentage? Right? Aren't they getting the 20% off of the water they actually do use that goes into the system as
Yeah,
well?
that's what I was saying.
They get up to 20% they use, but they don't use a heck of a lot.
No,
They
I'm
use
saying
very
it's
little.
not just a 60.
Well, they're not using inside water.
Oh, right
but their
now-
property is still being irrigated.
Right, but right now, they're at the 85% that everybody else is.
No, they're not.
No, they're not.
No, they're not.
95?
The commercial.
They're at 100%.
They're at 100.
They're 100%.
But they had an agreement, did they have an agreement with the town to be classified as?
They have an agreement with the town, I guess, for deduct meters, but not to be
But they're at
classified at
100%.
85%. They're,
Right.
Change in the ordinance, the last change in the ordinance, when we just, we changed the rate table under Joe, I think it was 2020. And what we did at that point was they were actually getting a double, remember?
yes.
Yeah.
John used to
That's right.
get crazy. They were getting, not only were they getting the deduct, but they were also getting a 15% discount initially.
And nobody
But
else.
when-
And we
the whole
changed it
town.
in 2020.
Oh, you changed it? to-
Now, those that have a deduct, they pay 100%. And
Okay, so-
then those that don't have the deduct, they pay 85%.
But they all the units have deducts.
Right.
All the
But they
units-
were also getting a double,
So Mark,
bonus,
so if they
actually.
lose the benefit of the deduct meter on the outside water, right? The extra discount they will
Mhm.
get for all of it, including, right, they'll get it for the water they do use. How do we, why would we
They won't get
believe?
it for it. They only get it for their,
They'll get 20% off of everything.
of everything.
But how do we regulate, if I write you a note and say, I'm in Florida 9 months a year, I want to use a deduct meter, like, and I'm not, who regulates whether they're actually living there or not for
I
6
mean, you
months?
can see the listing, they have some, these units are all over the place. They've got 3, 5, 6, 7 zones, sprinkler zones, and some of them are using, I don't know.
You're not living there because their water use.
3,000 cubic feet or 123,000 cubic feet, specific property that has 6 different zones. I mean, the disparity, I don't know how the association bills out to the units, but they're all over the place.
So who the zones are that's their common area. It's not the individual owners are not.
Unclear. Yeah, unclear.
So
Well,
the
they're,
owners aren't
these are by
managing
unit.
those.
It gives you
By
the
unit.
address and it gives you the number of zones in that address. This
Each house
listing.
waters,
House
each
has
house
their own-
waters its own landscape,
That's correct.
but the
crazy.
bill is accrued by the entire,
Mhm.
um,
So, which I find interesting because my place in South Carolina, which is warmer, we have an irrigation system. Obviously, it has sensors and everything. We only set it for irrigation on Mondays and Wednesdays.
Mhm.
And it's a lot warmer there. So I don't know, we
I
don't
think-
use anywhere near this
I
much.
think our challenge is, we totally understand the point you're making, Mark. So how do we, and it's not going to be static, right? We're not going to have the same number of ownership there who depart and who travel and don't use. So it's going to be, so that's why we're trying to have some uniformity to the system where we can't think that far ahead to know what the makeup of that particular neighborhood, although a large percentage now go south, that may not always be the case. So we're trying to customize, we can't customize the
you
system.
don't know that. I agree.
My point is, how do you regulate? Okay, we'll send them a note. You can't live there for 6 months a year and we'll give you the deduct meter. They wouldn't want that because they're in,
No.
and how do we regulate whether you are living there those 6 months or not? And
So we think the 80/20 that's why we're bringing it to you tonight. Is
Yeah, I
a
think
fair
you'd
assessment to
have to
provide
look at
some
the-
relief.
You'd have to look at the numbers. I don't know how much that covers. The only other option that they have, I agree with you, the formula is going to be very difficult to satisfactorily cover that. There are 55 and over restricted, so I think that a lot of people will continue to be snowbirds. But the other option would be for them to put in a sewer meter reading, that they would put a sewer meter reading, and so you would know exactly how much water was going into your sewer system. Because we'll never know how much necessarily, if we take away the deduct meters.
Can they do that? I
Yeah,
thought-
so typically those are only used like in treatment plants and treatment facilities. We do not have any at all for any residents in town. They're very cumbersome. They're not that accurate. They're very involved and could be very expensive. So I don't know how long, if we allowed this particular condo unit to do that, are we going to allow everybody else that wants one of these in? So now we're trading one meter program for another meter program. And here we go again. Yeah, I understand what they're looking for, because they probably will see an increase in their usage.
And that may prompt a behavior change.
Right.
Right.
Well, but I have a little problem with that, is that we're talking about sewer usage.
Right.
Water conservation is kind of a different, we're not using our sewer bill to enforce water conservation. They're really two different conversations.
Pay for the water.
Right, but the idea is, yeah, they pay for the water. The idea is how much are they actually putting into our wastewater treatment plant? And there's no way we're ever going to really know that if we take away their deduct meters, unless we have a sewer meter.
That's true
Whether
for
that's,
everyone, right?
it's true, but it's true, but it wouldn't really make sense, because for the vast majority of people, that 20% will cover their outside water use. But the people who live in Frybrook, 60% of their water use is outside for landscaping.
So, but that has to be the case for other residents.
Why wouldn't we
right?
just have
For
if you're over
living-
55, you get a deduct meter?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I'll go to Florida too, and
Yeah.
I'm not a condo.
I don't know how we bifurcate the two, right? So we're using that as a model at this moment in time to say a certain percentage of that neighborhood goes away. Well, I guarantee you, there's a lot of other residents who also leave the area
Right.
who may or may not have deduct, and we're gonna, we're trying to do it equitably, so we're gonna have to accommodate them as well. So it's not just about this one HOA, it's gonna be about others that either have it or don't have it. Then the question is, do we leave it open and do we keep we've stopped issuing them.
Well,
So
I
we don't-
understand, but you do have in your ordinance, you may have to change your ordinance, because you have in your ordinance that if someone can show,
Yep.
this was under C5, that if an individual user can demonstrate to the satisfaction of the director that water consumption on specific premises does not reasonably reflect sewer discharge,
Mhm.
special provisions may be made to more accurately and equitably determine the means for establishing the basis for sewer use.
Yep.
So that's really the provision that they are trying to use. A single individual is probably not going to be, well, I don't know.
Identical. And by the way, the lawyer in me it says may, not shall. So it just gives us the discretion. We may consider that, but we may also decide that efficiency and the amount of resources we want to put in to divining whether everyone over 55 is spending 3 months a year, 2 months a year, or 6 months a year, or 9 months a year in Florida should have be allowed to have a deduct meter. Right? It's kind of the same thing. These people are no different because they claim that they're in Florida 6 months a year,
Mhm.
but maybe next year they're not. And now are they not going to get the benefit of the deduct meter when they're not in Florida that year? Or when
Well,
somebody-
I mean, essentially, when you remove the deduct meter, that conversation becomes moot. You
Right.
just pay for the water and you get 20%.
Right.
Some people will benefit from that. Some people will get significant increase in their water bill.
The way that it works right now, does individual homeowner have they can set their irrigation system the way they want it, or the condo? Oh,
Well, I mean, at Flybrook,
yeah.
I don't know how they do it. I don't do
Any-
it. From the email,
It must be.
yeah, from the email that I read, they made it sound like there's a certain standard that they want to maintain out there for their landscape. So maybe the
I think
HO
I think the focus to answer the question is, think of Frybrook as one user.
Right.
They can do whatever they want. And so once on their side of the meter, on their side of the water, they can use as much water as they want to pay for
Right, as much,
all day
right,
long.
correct,
Yeah.
correct.
Now, there was someone from Frybrook who I think may be on the Zoom call. Did anybody identify themselves? If there's someone from Frybrook, if they want to raise their hand and introduce themselves, maybe they can make some comments. Hi, Mr. Cook. You are at a public hearing, so can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, thank you. I'm Harold Cook, and I'm a resident of the Frybrook residences. I live at 35 Frybrook Drive in East Greenwich.
I hope you've been listening to our conversation. I want to see if you have any comments on this discussion.
No, I think that the board understands the situation very well. For us, there are three issues really. One is that, just as was said, we are obviously billed for our water, and then we also pay for the sewer. The sewer discharge is not the same as the water usage because so much of it goes out into the landscaping. So if we were paying for water that we used that went into the sewer, that would be a different issue than paying for all the water we're using as if it was going into the sewer when much of it is going out into landscaping. Okay. The second issue is just that the rates will go up. We all understand how that works, and if the town decides, as it seems to be going, we would, of course, pay our fee. The third thing is just about the catch-up that was mentioned. We have been billed for previous water usage, which means that in calendar 2025, we paid for water usage together with the deduct meters that you've mentioned, but our share of the water usage for 2024. What's being proposed is that in this catch-up, we would also be paying in calendar 2026 for some of the usage from 2025, as well as usage in 2026. And so I just want to bring that to your attention, that will also increase the amount that we would pay this year. So be it, if that's your decision, but just so that you understand that there's that issue here as well, which will be raising our costs for the year. So as a member of the condo board, we need to represent to our constituents what the issues are that are going to be raising the cost to the condo association.
Right. And then my understanding is then the following year, it will go back down and you'll just be paying in arrears for the either the quarter or the 6 months, whatever the decision is.
Right.
So there's an extra payment.
In future years, but this is a catch-up year. That's
Right.
all. Yeah.
Right. You go back to 4 payments, 4 quarterly payments.
Yeah. For
the next
Right. In the future, this year, we will be paying more for that, as well as you were discussing, higher costs,
Right.
given the way we use water here.
Mr. Cook, any additional revenues collected will go back to the enterprise fund and be used for the system, either to pay off debt or to lower rates. None of that money goes over to the town. So I understand you will be paying more. There may be a slight surplus in revenues for the treatment facility fund, but that money will go back into debt or a lowering of rates for the consumers.
Good. I'm happy to hear that and understand.
Yeah, and just to clarify, Mark, the rate itself is not changing at all. So the price that you're paying per 100 cubic feet is not changing at all.
But it may change in subsequent years
Well, yeah, we adjust year to
because
year.
you will be getting additional revenue.
Right, we adjust year to year based on our needs.
Right.
So our goal is to break even. at the end
That's
of
what
the
I
year.
mean. You'll adjust
Yeah.
it year to year. So if you have a little bit more this year, you'll may need a little bit less next year.
Right, but this year, we're not proposing a fee height increase at all.
Okay.
No, our increase would be because of the loss of the deduct meters.
That's correct.
Do you have any other questions or comments, Mr. Cook?
No, I thank you for your attention, but it's yeah, it will definitely be a cost for us, and we may be representative of some other groups of people out there as well. Just to bring that to your attention for your consideration.
I do have one question for you. I know you're taking over and are fairly new to the position, but are there opportunities for conservation of water on the premises? I don't know, there's some questions about, does each individual property decide how much they're watering, or is it done by the association?
No, the condo board sets the standards for the watering of the grounds.
Mhm.
It's just that the water to feed the sprinklers that take care of the grounds comes from the individual units rather than a central distribution point.
But you set the actual watering times and amounts and
Correct.
those
So
features.
it's every other day or 2 or 3 days a week, depending. I'm new, so I don't know exactly how all those are set, but they're set to be periodic. And so you can think of it as um, something like a golf course in terms of, watering lawns, which are would be for each one of the holes have its own source for sprinkling that area. I think that would be a proper analogy.
Mhm. Okay, well, I appreciate you participating in our public hearing this evening. I don't know if any other people have any questions or comments for Mr. Cook. If not, are there any other hands raised? Any other questions for our staff tonight? People want to kind of review where they are right now as far as we have two options here. We have a change in the ordinance with deduct meters that are grandfathered in. And then we have a separate ordinance where all the deduct meters will be discontinued.
I mean, I think we just heard how the deduct meters are not really serving the purpose and that it's creating more work for the department overall. And, if we could standardize the usage across all the sewer users and save, the money that the DPW employees are having to take out of their day just to chase down this situation, for, as long as we have like a 6-month leeway to let people know that the deduct meters are on their way out, simply that's probably the best way to do this instead of keeping the grandfathering them in.
I agree with that. Plus, it doesn't seem to be an efficient system. And
No, it really is not
So-
as it stands. And like I had mentioned previously, we're only one of 6 communities
Right.
that,
right.
take this on. The other ones being like your Providence, your Warwick, your East Providence, Cranston. So, we're not comparable to any of those communities, in my opinion.
Yeah, we don't have the infrastructure to handle it. And, quite frankly, the idea of how inaccurate they are
That's correct.
and enforcing compliance is just,
Yeah, so
it's not truly fair the way it is because you can't tell.
right. So I mean, if we were to stay with the deduct program, everybody that's involved would have to get a new meter. And then we would have to regulate it because right now we really don't. So we would have to regulate it. They'd have to be calibrated regularly, they'd have to be certified by a licensed plumber. And, we'd have to inspect regularly. So now you're adding that.
That would be more
yeah.
costly for the homeowner anyway.
Right,
Right.
right. It would cost them money and it would
Right.
cost the town money because now
Right.
every once in a while I've got to send somebody out to make sure that they didn't bypass these things. So that's why most
Yeah.
communities don't do this.
Right.
I think it's absolutely essential we get off of the annual billing cycle. And
Absolutely.
so that's really where we have to move.
Yeah, that's what really drove this whole thing.
Yeah.
So we figured while we were at it, let's clean everything up.
And I think unfortunately, when you take an action like this, some people will benefit and some people may have some negative impact. But the deduct meters, if we were to continue those, we would need a Department of Deduct Meter, surveillance. And so we can't do that either. The only question I have, Fred, is are you going to change in the ordinance the residential class B? Is it for just this one particular unit or is it in general residential B?
We're going to change that.
So there are other categories that would fall under the residential B, might be a commercial residential complex that has rental apartments.
Mhm.
They would still be under the residential B, but the classification of a full ownership condominium association would fall under residential.
So
So that would be the 80-20.
right. So
that
do
would
we
be the
need to
80-20.
amend the
We would amend that.
ordinance.
Correct.
Yep.
We do have one more reading, I guess, so we can
To that
we can do
effect,
that.
yeah.
So we can make that amendment. And I think it looks like the consensus is to endorse the ordinance without deduct meters. Other questions or comments? So I'd look for a motion to close the public hearing and move this ordinance reading to the third reading at our next council meeting. And this would be an ordinance to go to the quarterly billing without the use of deduct meters.
So moved. I'll second.
Motion a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Malaga, for your work. Thanks, Fred. I hope this gives you a little breather from those deduction meters. And Trish is happy also.
I hope you have something to do with all your free time now.
Well, Trish, you are now in the spotlight here again. We're going to 8A from our new business. This is a recommendation from our finance director to abate $105,848.46 of uncollectible motor vehicle and personal property taxes from 2015 and older, submitted by our finance director, Trish Sunderland. Under Rhode Island law, civil actions need to collect overdue municipal property taxes. They have to commence within 10 years of the date due. Therefore, these accounts are no longer legally collectible due to the 10-year statute of limitations. Included in this abatement are write-offs for businesses and individuals who are defunct, in bankruptcy, and or deceased by determination of the town's collection agency, Rossi Law. So I don't want to be in any of those categories. Good evening.
Good evening. I just want to say thank you so much for passage of that ordinance.
Just advanced it.
It's been a long 7 years trying to fight that
Really?
battle. It wasn't easy. Yeah, so before you are 4 basic year-end items. This one in particular is our abatement request for tax collector abatements. We do this every year. These are all the vehicles that are older than 10 years and the vehicles that Rossi Law has deemed either defunct companies, bankrupt companies, just collectibles that are no longer valid for us.
This is from 2015, is that?
Correct.
So all the way up to 2025?
We're up to 2015. No, 2015 and older.
Oh, okay, 2015 and older.
So every year we come to you with the succeeding year, yeah.
Collected after 10 years. That's why.
If you'd like to pay, we'll take it, but that's okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the abatement.
Okay, we have a motion.
Rayward?
Motion and a second.
Yeah.
Further questions for the finance director? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. This is another item from wrapping up some finance business. This is a resolution to order the assessment, evaluation, and collection of a tax on the rateable real estate, tangible property, personal property, and excise tax on registered motor vehicles and trailers of the town as of December 31st, 2025. And essentially, we need to approve this resolution to give the tax assessor the authority to assess the valuation of property and collect taxes based on that valuation. Do you have any other?
Nope, this
Comments?
is just our normal begin new year. This just authorizes us the billing and collections of the 2026 real estate bills. Also confirms our quarterly payments authorization, charging of interest 12%, and approves a 15-day grace period, as well as it also authorizes us to hold our annual tax sale and the option of waiving interest on delinquent taxes under the general laws 4458.1. So there's 5 requirements there that a resident has to fulfill in order to be considered for a waiver of interest.
So this is for just the trailers that were owned through 2025.
This is for everything.
Everything.
This is our 2026 tax roll.
We're on 8B, right?
Am I on the wrong one?
So it's rateable real estate, tangible personal property.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Registered motor vehicles.
Sorry, I apologize.
No, don't do that. What am I doing?
You can't pay for anything if we don't approve this.
Have
Motion to approve.
a motion?
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 5-0. 8C is a request to close out remaining FLSA settlement liability to unassigned fund balance. So.
Thank you for giving me flashbacks.
Yeah, I was. This
You, I just started.
In 2019, the town of East Greenwich and East Greenwich Firefighters Union reached a settlement of a union claim made under the Fair Labor Standards Act to be paid over a period of 3 years. That settlement has been paid out, but an accounting adjustment is required to close out a liability balance remaining on our town records. So Trish, do you have any other comments on that?
Sure. Total liability on this for the 3-year payout was 172,956. I added the FICA portion, the town's FICA portion of 7.65. That's what we booked as a liability. And then once we paid out the payrolls over the course of 3 years, the accounting for it actually expensed the FICA to the operating budget in each year instead of hitting the holding account. So this amount has been sitting there since 2022. So we're just trying to clean up our balance sheet before we retire.
Right, we can get that off of our books. Mr. Zarelli, you want to do
Make
this
the
one
motion to
too?
approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 5-0. And Director Sunderland's last agenda item is recommendation from the Finance Director to transfer $615,000 of our 2025-2026 general operating surplus funds to specific capital reserve funds and to the debt service fund to fund essential projects and minimize future tax increases.
Motion to approve.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about where that money's going?
Sure, just based on an updated projection as of June 15th. Obviously, we're not closed yet. We still have some expenses come through during our accrual period of 60-day accrual for July and August. I have a projected surplus of $1.3 million. Of that, $500,000 is allocated to go back to the general fund to supplant the use of fund balance in the 2026 budget. $300,000 was additional monies that we had budgeted for in the town council contingency, for which we will transfer that to the debt service for our 2028 anticipated budget. And then I've listed on the bottom just a few $295,000 of transfers going to capital funds, most of which have been budgeted in our CIP, multi-year funding specifically for the ladder, for the fire department, the ladder truck, as well as the front loader for DPW, and then to balance the capital fund municipal planning for their comprehensive plan work that they're doing right now. That was a little more than what we had anticipated. And then, I'm setting aside $20,000 for the 350th celebration.
Any questions for the Finance Director? Okay, I'll look for,
Approve.
we have a motion to approve the transfer of funds as enumerated by the Finance Director. Motion is second. All those in favor? Aye.
Thank
Motion
you.
carries 5-0. Thank you. We've completed items 8E and 8F. This brings us to public comment. Is there anybody on the Zoom platform? No hands. Okay, and no one publicly to make public comments. So we'll move down to council announcements and comments. Anything the council would like to bring forward?
We got a lot of emails about a fence around Route 4. People are complaining about the noise in that neighborhood behind Lake Shefferoni. I think might be worth it to have like a discussion about that in the future. And also, I got a couple questions from people from the Juvenile Hearing Board, and they were concerned that they know that there has been some, stuff happening at the schools, or with the kids, but they're not seeing that many kids come through the hearing board. And is there, a discussion, maybe, diversion or something like that for those kids, or what's happening? Where are we using the Juvenile Hearing Board the way it was meant to be? Thanks.
Yes, Mr. Donegan.
Just to follow on the first comment Renu had, Andy, maybe if what you could do is on some future agenda, talk to us about the process by which we petition the state DOT or whatever to look at sound protection along that route.
Sure.
And, we can then engage our state reps and all of that, just so we have a process to see, you can tell us what it is.
Yeah, understood.
Okay, and then on the issue of the juvenile hearing board, do they have direct access to our resource officers?
They would, I
I
think.
don't know.
Yeah, we can definitely, I think there has been communication. I don't think that the conduit is as tightly woven as it used to be between
When Bob was,
town operations, town involvement, departmental involvements, and the school and the youth and the juvenile hearing board. I think before there was, much more of an open dialogue occurring. So I don't think that that's happening as frequently as it once did, which may or may not be the reason why they're not seeing as many kids before the board.
to follow on our news comment, could you look into how the planning, the juvenile hearing board's question as to why that's not happening when they're reading about all of this,
Sure
and
thing.
just see between the schools, a resource officer, and them, is there's a common ground to communicate, and maybe let us know how that works.
By all means.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I think one obstacle to that, Mike, is that many times to initiate a juvenile hearing board action, you need an arrest. The individual has to have violated the law, had an interaction with the police, and then to divert them out of the criminal justice system into a non-criminal avenue. So unless someone has actually been arrested,
No role.
it's hard to get a referral because there's nothing to mitigate at that point. But I think that the idea of maybe expanding the role is interesting. You have a comment?
Yeah, and I think in the past, there were times when certain initiatives were moved forward outside of they may have been consulted, but it wasn't formally based on the reasoning you just laid out, Dr. Swager, regarding the individual wasn't before the juvenile hearing board, but there were relationships with individual town departments, other agencies in the community for people to conduct certain activities, to be able to be mentored, be able to be supported in different ways as part of a rehabilitative type of program. And again, that was also, I think, because of the diversity of our prevention operation, which was, far more than that. I think we all understand in terms of
He had
it.
more of a role, even it didn't
Yes.
require the trigger of an arrest.
That's correct. Yeah.
That might be what
Yeah.
they're responding to. I don't know. But if you could just look at us and let us know.
Oh, certainly. Yep. Happy to.
Let me just address the first issue that Renu was talking about. I did send a DOT, my friends at DOT, who we love and adore, a question about this, and sent them, that quite a few people are complaining about the noise. So they said, this is their email to me: if the community would like a study performed, which is necessary, the community and not the state would be responsible for bearing any cost to the study to establish the existence of noise impacts that would need to be mitigated. If the noise impact criteria are met and a barrier is found reasonable and feasible, the town would need to include a request for the project in their application to the State Transportation Improvement Program. The town could also fund the design and construction of the noise barrier instead of applying through STIP.
They just give us permission to put it on their property? Is
Yeah.
that it?
So just a quick response
Right.
to that, right? So we've been communicating with this neighborhood for several years. This is a very challenging subject. Most of what Karen just articulated, we're already doing, right? So we're going to be through DPW, we're communicating with RIDOT. I agree that once there is viability and need for a program, it's a state project. It's not a town project. It needs to show up in the tip. What I would say to you is that we are unaware in the entire state of Rhode Island. I think this is where expectations are important. There are no sound barriers on Route 95 anywhere, 295, 146, any of the other Route 6, 138, Route 1, Route 4. So the likelihood of this is just practicality, right? We're looking at it. The likelihood of, even if, and the terminology that you read of feasibility and funding in the state TIP program, that even if we could find 30 locations around the state that exceed acceptable standards, the likelihood of the state of Rhode Island funding tens of millions of dollars for sound barriers that you see on Route 95 as you travel through other states, because not one exists in the entire state of Rhode Island, is really, is almost impossible, right? So, but the process you laid out, Mike, I think that's really important. And Karen, in terms of the feasibility, so what we, in terms of planning and DPW and other departments, interact with various state and federal agencies, there are at times technical grant support for such studies. So our team is already on alert for that type of opportunity, should it surface, that we will move that forward. The other thing was, in a recent conversation I had with a statewide planning official regarding the state TIP, Transportation Improvement Program, they removed the funding for the bike path bridge. So the 100,000 has been removed. So
Scallop
down over. So my response to them was, they said to me, should we have a meeting and does the town have things? I said, yes. So that would be one. This would be another. So there are about 2 or 3 subjects that we want to have that conversation in terms of state TIP funding for feasibility studies. So we are going to move forward with that initiative as well to try to build a bridge. And most of these communications occurred during the prior RIDOT administration. So as things are mid-bit flux, right, at the moment, that may change in the coming months where maybe we'll see more support for those kind of studies. So we are listening to the neighborhood and trying to move some of those initiatives forward.
Ask why that connection was removed, the Scallop Town to.
Yeah, the response that I eventually, and I did receive a formal response, was that there is no funding. I think the funding has all been reappropriated based on bridge and road work that's happening around the state. So there are no other feasibility studies that were included in the last funding round of the TIP. Doesn't mean it can't immediately be refunded or modified. And you don't have to wait to a particular point in time for that to happen. So I'm going to initiate the meeting with RIDOT officials, and we're going to. And there's another project that I've lost sight of at the moment. But clearly, the 2 we wanted to talk to them about was this soundproofing project, as well as the funding for the bike path bridge. Yep.
That's crazy.
Maybe Main Street.
Yeah, could be, right.
Yeah, I know, in talking to Mr. Nada, after we received a lot of these emails, I can tell you, you've done a lot of digging into this, a lot of research into this. So I think, just putting it together, maybe presenting it as part of a manager's report would be great, because you've done the work.
Yep.
And we can just review that with the council and members of the public. Other town council comments?
Yes. On a higher note, congratulations to the East Greenwich High School baseball team who won the state championship last week. I'd like to have the baseball team and the tennis team, who both won championships, in before us. There were a lot of second place finishes too. It was a great year for East Greenwich sports, but we have 2 champions, which is good.
Yeah, where do we draw the line there? I guess someone was lobbying for other teams to be.
I know, but
You have to win it all.
can't do participation here.
Oh,
Want to
one,
talk about the over 35 league?
35 basketball.
Recognize.
but 35, are you? One more thing, Andy, and I did send this to you in an email, but I think it deserves a public comment. I've had some complaints from people in the High Hawk area about kids with dirt bikes. So you want to just maybe address that?
Sure, because I don't know if I assume they were gas-powered dirt bikes. So I guess we don't know, but
I didn't see them.
yeah, so we talked to the chief recently at a staff meeting about this, and we've had concerns even about e-bikes, right? So I think what you're talking about is different.
Well,
so
they told me dirt.
Yeah, so when I think of a dirt bike, it's an off-road, non-licensed, non-registered bike that can only be used off-road, that is on the streets of the town in the
Right.
particular western neighborhood. So totally illegal, cannot be on the road, should not be on the road. I think my response to you was they
Yes.
need to just report them and the police will address it.
Right.
Separately, we did have concerns in some neighborhoods about e-bike use by younger adults. And I think this issue is coming up in a number of communities. I would really expect some type of statewide intervention here in the next few years. Some legislation was moved forward. Wasn't approved, but it's for even helmet requirements on younger ages. It's to ensure that they're under, 50 cc. So you don't have to be licensed, but you have to have other precautions. And then many communities, and the state of Rhode Island regulates this on their bike paths as well. It's a type 1 e-bike is the only one permitted. Type 2 and type 3 are not permitted because they're too fast and they're too robust, starting to become almost like a motorcycle, but with a different fuel source. So that's the catch. There's really very little regulation right now on e-bikes. So I think that's something else that we're keeping an eye on. And I think will be regulated in some way, shape, or form in the next year or two. Yep.
Other questions or comments? So we'll close council announcements, and we do have, I think we have an open executive session tonight. I think Councilor Cornthal, you were not at the last meeting related to East Greenwich versus ALP PC, so I think we'll catch you up on that. Mr. Zarella, I think you're recused from that
I am.
item, so you won't need to remain. So we'll have a brief executive. One is closed pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 42465, A2 and 5 for approval of the executive session minutes from June 8th. And then item 1B, closed pursuant to General Law 42465, A5 for session pertaining to discussion or consideration related to acquisition or lease of real property for public purposes. This is Bosch Farm, and it involves involves the East Greenwich versus the Agricultural Land Preservation Commission. So I need a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Aye. Mike, you're not going to vote on that one?
Yes,
You're
sorry.
with Mr. Zarella. Recording. Okay, the executive session has closed. We're now back in open session. I'll report out the votes on our executive session agenda items. Item 1A, action was taken. The minutes were approved 4-0 with Councilor Zarella recused. Item 1B, no action was taken. I'd ask for a motion to seal the minutes of the executive session.
So moved.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I did.
Motion carries 4-0 with
Karen.
Councilor Zarella recused. Ask for a motion to adjourn. Motion is second. All those in favor? Carries 5-0.